This week, on a very special edition of The Big Show, we're talking Cannes. The Cannes Film Festival is underway. The world's oldest film festival, full of prestige and premieres, is out in the south of France doing this thing. In addition to that, we'll talk about new shows that are on Netflix, including Forever, which I got a chance to check out earlier this week. New trailers are all out. Of course, the new Tyler Perry trailer, the new Superman trailer, as well as the new Ironheart trailer. We will spotlight from the LightReel Film Festival Travis Houze, screenwriter from the Go-Go District. We'll have all that and more on the latest episode, Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. Let's go. All right, welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. I am Tim Gordon, a slightly different looking Tim Gordon. I went back to the Fountain of Youth while in the last week or so, and I'm back. Charles, what's going on, man? I'm joined by Charles Kirkland Jr., man, who has not seen me and is in shock. What's up, bro?
Don't ask me how I'm doing. You don't really want to know because you don't really want me to tell you. So, hi.
Well, I mean, okay, so let me just clue the audience in before we start the show. Charles and I normally connect multiple times over the week, but last week we both had graduation. So Charles went down to Dallas, I went down to North Carolina, and we have not been, well, that's not true. We did have a couple of conversations earlier in the week, but I have not talked to Charles in a couple of days. So I don't know what's going on with my brother. I don't know what trials and tribulations. I just know that I've been here engrossed in this work nonstop for the last week because now we're under 3 weeks, man. So the Light Real Film Festival is coming. Every week, we're featuring somebody, some creative who's going to be prominent at our festival. Today, Travis Houze is a screenwriter who wrote an amazing piece called The Go-Go District. And I wanted to talk to him. So I want to make sure that you guys know that every week we're going to be featuring local creatives who have been, have worked at our festival, whether it's narrative features, short films, screenplays. They're all going to show up here over the next several weeks. This was Charles Kirkland's baby. It was his idea. I said, I think this is a good idea, Charles. Let's do it. So thanks, Charles. Good job, sir.
Okay. Sure.
So what's up, man? I'm trying to get you to say something, man.
You're not gonna like where I go because I just read this piece from Adam Schefter that said that they want to bring the draft to the NFL, and I don't want to. My mind is really blown right now, so I want the draft lottery to the NB to the NFL, which wow, wow, wow. But
so
other than that, I'm ready for the Light Real Film Festival. I'm trying to stay positive, trying to be happy and all these people just trying to bring me down. They just trying to bring me down.
well, I think you need to when we do our sports talk show, that would be a great conversation to have. But since we're not doing our sports talk show and we're doing a film show, I think we should focus on the matters of entertainment. But if you're looking at football as entertainment, I get that. So, but not right now. Not right now.
Okay. Okay.
So the Cannes Film Festival, Charles, you just heard me say, must be the quietest opening because I didn't even know it had started. I was like, I hadn't been watching anything, I hadn't seen anything. So the festival started earlier this week, man. The only thing I saw, which I think got my attention, is they came up with a new dress code on how you dress on the carpet now, right? They don't want
Yeah.
folks out
Yeah.
there being super nude, doing all the things you've been letting people do for years, but now We're changing it. I have no idea why, but I know you and I talked a couple of weeks ago, or maybe several weeks ago, when they released the lineup about the film. So I'm not going through the films. Uh, what I wanted to bring this up for was to talk about once movies are picked up, because this is really, Charles, the opening salvo for award season, which is going to happen, 7 months from now. It'll crystallize. But right now, this is the beginning of the process. And there are films that are going to play here, and depending on what kind of reception they get, from the audience, from buyers, etc. We will find out, especially over the next several months, because we'll know by the time it's time for Telluride, Venice, and Toronto that some of the films that are playing now or premiering now, I should say, at cons will dot those festival schedules as well. So we'll see.
Okay.
So yeah, going
I
on
think
any
I
movies?
think it's funny though. You mentioned the dress code thing. A lot of people treated Cannes red carpet kind of like the second Met Gala, and they would just dress up and dress up. And so, I don't know how functional it was to watch a movie, but it was kind of nice to see, the fashion going down the runway, and people dressed to the nines, and you know. Maybe a nipple here or there. It would happen, but
He said maybe a
but yeah,
nipple here or there. Wow.
it would happen. So I guess they just want to shine the light on movies this year. They want to be a film festival instead of a fashion show. So hey, who can blame them?
Man, this is a good problem to have. I mean, all joking aside, if people decided they wanted to come in the union market in June and, there was some runway type activity, I'd be good with that. I mean, the press is covering it, right? I'm straight. Like, wear your finest and show out for light reel. So, and now's not the time. Remember that I want to give out some breaking news a little later on, because every week as we get closer, we get more news that we need to talk about for the festival. So that's pretty interesting. But no, but back to cons. Hey man, that's a good problem to have if people are dressing crazily at your film festival instead of putting the focus where it belongs on the films. But it's a part of having a festival in the south of France, man. So people are doing what people do.
All news ain't bad news.
No, 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 not at all. So, Charles, I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity to see these three new trailers that have dropped. And I'm going to go through each of them kind of one by one because I watched them all multiple times this morning. And
Multiple times.
said it, yeah, you?
No, I'm saying you watched them
Oh,
multiple
yeah,
times.
multiple
You're
times,
not,
man, because
you're not usually a trailer dude, so that's why I'm kind of taken aback with it. I'm just saying.
well, there's a reason for that. So I'm going to start
Okay.
off with the first trailer, and I wish we were able to show them, but the police that would block our podcast from getting out to a larger audience because they would say that we don't have permission to show these clips, despite the fact that we're promoting movies, which never sort of makes sense. It's not like we're trying to monetize these artists' movies. We're trying to make a point by talking about the first look at a thing before you see the actual finished product. So let's start off with Tyler Perry's film called Straw. Now, for transparency's sake, Charles knows this as well. We reached out to the studio that's distributing this movie about showing it at the Light Reel Film Festival, and we were told no. Now, time will tell whether that's a good decision for them, whether it was a good a good outcome for us. But I watched the trailer several times this morning, and Charles, I don't think I'm breaking any news if I say that the chatter online is that it's John Q with women, right? Which I don't think is true, right? I think it's more breaking the John Boyega, Michael K. Wynn story
Yeah, yeah.
with women than it is John Q, right now. Breaking, for people at home who really don't know, was a film that closed our festival, I want to say back in 2023 or 2022. It's
I think
one
it
of
was
those.
23, 23.
23. About a military vet who is dealing with something, because I can't really remember exactly what it was, but he's dealing with something and he's robbing a bank. And there is a negotiator played by, which in his final performance, Michael K. Williams from The Wire, who played Omar, is trying to talk him down. And so immediately when I watch Straw, with what Taraji P. Henson's character is going through with a sympathetic Sherry Shepherd and not a negotiator, but I guess it would be a negotiator in Tiana Taylor. So it's the same sort of vibe, except you've got a much higher caliber, much higher profile stars in Henson and Taylor in this. Now the other news about this, Charles, is that this film is reportedly been shot in 4 days, right? And when I watched the trailer, which is why I watched it several times, I wanted to understand why. And I no, seriously, I do understand. I'm not being funny. If the lion's share of your movie takes place inside of a closed facility where negotiations are going back and forth, you have three actresses that people know, and then you got a bunch of other people who, for lack of a better term, are just there as a part of the scenery. They may have a line or two or may move or do something, but the action is really through the point of view of Taraji P. Henson, Sherry Shepherd, who's there with her, and then Taraji P. Henson, who's trying to talk her down. So I could totally understand if you maybe shoot a couple of takes, you could probably go through that script in 4 days. I mean, seriously, Charles, I'm not being funny. So I'm not here to
Well,
attack.
why does it come across as being funny though?
Well, I have a history, and it's funny. I have a history on the show, but I really have a history in my personal life of everybody who's close to me is always like, Tim's attacking Tyler Perry. And I'm like, no, if you remember, my job is film critic. So if he's doing something thematic or something with a film, I have an opinion. I have an opinion based on what it is that I do for a living, right? So I'm not attacking him. I'm just trying to figure out. So it made sense to me when I watched it. I said, oh, okay, cool. Because people forget Tyler Perry owns Tyler Perry Studios, right? So Tyler Perry, I remember in an interview, said one time, Charles, that part of the reason why he's able to speed the process up is because he's been an actor on other people's sets. And he said people waste a lot of time kind of standing around looking for shots, trying to figure stuff out. He does his homework in advance. Now, again, they're purists that I talk to all the time, and I'm not going to name these people, but I'm saying, Charles, we know directors and we know screenwriters and we know folks in the game, and everybody's got an opinion, right? So all I'm trying to do is be positive about Straw to say that without having seen it, only having watching the trailer, reading about the film took 96 hours to make. There are reasons that he's able to make the film. Now, there are filmmakers. I had a conversation with a filmmaker yesterday, Charles, who I will tell you off camera who this person is. But this person was like, hey, God bless him, man. If that's what he's doing and that's his style, that's his style. And then I said, is that your? I said, you sound like you've been practicing this answer. And they said, of course, there's some BS that you... so it's not just me or us that are hating. There are folks who, we talked about sinners ad nauseum, right? You don't hear Ryan Coogler saying, like, man, I made sinners in a week, yo. No. so I'm I'm saying that to say that I'm being as nice as I can and respectful to Mr. Perry. Prior to me having seen his films, and Charles will tell you, I've seen every movie Tyler Perry's ever made, every one, and I watch them on purpose. So I would never be the guy trying to tear another guy down without having watched your work. Now, if your work doesn't resonate for me, I own that, right? I told you there's only like three of his films that I've really liked or enjoyed. Outside of that, my mother, my sister, everybody in Charles's house other than Charles. Everybody else enjoys these movies. Charles, have you seen the trailer for Straw yet?
Hey, look, I'll be completely, totally honest. When I heard this trailer for Straw was coming out, I had a little salt in my mouth because uh, we didn't get the film for our festival. So, typically I'm like, fo- forget Tyler Perry. I don't need to see anything about it. But I was convinced that I needed to see the trailer, and I watched it, and I said, to his credit, it doesn't look like a bad movie. It just doesn't look like a complex movie, and which is probably why you can do it and shoot it in 4 days. So if you got just a couple set locations, yeah, I understand. But if you got Ryan Coogler movie, you got multiple locations and artistic things going on in the film, yeah, it's going to take longer to film the movie. So I'm not poo-pooing Tyler Perry's movie yet. Actually, it looks like it could be kind of decent if it's executed well. And he's got some really good actresses in this film, so. Um, who knows? It might be. I like the trailer's not bad. The trailer's not
All right.
bad.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one, man, because we spent a lot of time on that one. And the next trailer I wanted to talk about was James Gunn's bringing back Superman, right? And again, I have said this once. I've said it 100 times. It's not the last time I'll say this. I'm not the comic book guy, right? I watch movies based on what you give me, right? So Charles and I always had these conversations. I go to Charles and I'll say something like, "Hey, Charles, is this story following the comic or is this just like the movie, right?" So in this trailer, Charles, did you get a chance to watch this one yet?
No, I did not watch the
Okay.
Superman trailer.
So in this trailer, Rachel Brosnahan, who's playing Lois Lane, has Clark Kent in her apartment, and she is interviewing him. He consents for an interview, and her tone becomes very defensive. Like, you sure you out here to help? It looked a little suspect to me. Like you saying you doing something good, it could be bad. And as the trailer kind of plays out, he's getting more and more agitated because I'm out here trying to do some stuff that's good, and y'all are really not understanding what I'm trying to do as we're watching all of these clips of Superman saving people, him landing. For some reason, and Charles can probably speak to this a little more, this Superman feels to me, at least from the first two trailers I've watched, he gets beat down a little more than I'm accustomed to seeing Superman get beat down. Like, I mean, seriously, like, I can remember Christopher Reeves a little bit in the original 1979 Superman, maybe a hit or two. I remember in Superman Returns that, they shanked Superman, and I had a little kid, my boy's kid was with me, and he burst out in the theater, they're killing Superman. So I get that. Man of Steel, Superman took a little punishment. This Superman, at least in the first two trailers I've seen, he is getting slammed, beat down, bloodied. I'm like, what has happened to Superman? What? Why is Superman suddenly not super? So, Charles, I mean, I know you haven't seen the trailer, but can you speak to why you think James Gunn is trying to humanize the Man of Steel, Krypton's son, Jor-El? Why is this happening in this Superman?
Because it would be extremely boring if Superman just went in and just wrecked stuff all the time, beat up everybody and saved lives and all this. It's boring. You gotta have a little bit deeper character, which the comic book does. The comic books have. I mean, Superman dies in the comic book. He's died and come back to life. So I mean, yeah, it's more genuine to have a I mean, you can't root for a hero that always wins. He's got to lose sometimes, and sometimes you got to exalt the villains. And so you got in the past we've seen Lex Luthor as kind of goofy, but Lex Luthor is a man to be reckoned with. He's powerful. He's the evil version of Tony Stark in that he's got lots of money, he can create things, and he's got a purpose. And to be honest, the themes of that Lex Luthor is facing, I mean, fights Superman with, are some of the issues that we're facing in our country right now to this day about aliens, illegal aliens coming in, and what are their purpose, and what are they doing, and I think that's what James Gunn is investigating in this story and making it, drawing parallels to life that we're living right now, and also some of the things that he's extrapolating from the comic books. So it sounds good to me that, you can't have a superhero that's super all the time. It wouldn't be fun to watch.
All right. So,
I mean,
of
even
course,
your buddy Batman got beat up. I mean, that makes it even more better on the comeback when he gets better. So, that makes it for a more compelling story.
well, as you've told me, my buddy Batman is not a superhero because he doesn't have any special skills. He has special skills with his wallet.
Exactly.
So there you go. So there you go. So, which leads me, which is perfect. Talking about superheroes, let's talk about another woman who is taking a mantle of Tony Stark. You talked about Tony Stark. Riri, I forget what Riri's last name is. Riri Williams. Something's wrong with your mic, man. Because it's sort of like it's going in and out.
Okay.
So there you go.
Okay.
You sounded much better there. But Riri Williams is back. Ryan Coogler, who's fresh off of Sinners, is the producer of this story called Ironheart, which is going to debut on Disney Plus in a couple of months, or maybe next month, I think it is. And I saw the trailer for this one. Have you seen this trailer yet?
Yes.
Um, what's the brother's name? Anthony Ramos.
Anthony Ramos. Yes.
Anthony Ramos tests her out, finds out that the second coming of Tony Stark is the real deal. It's very interesting because I read a piece this morning, Charles, that normally when they have these standalone these programs, we have to watch the villain sort of, I mean, not the villain, but we have to watch our protagonist sort of figure out her way, build her suit, figure all that stuff out. She did all that stuff in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. So now we're thrust in this world. Ryan Coogler is back at it again as a producer. Charles, you watched this trailer, man. I think this one has the capabilities of being a real winner for Disney Plus and also a real story that can help advance the narrative for some of these future films in a way that we haven't seen in a minute.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree on this. When I first saw the trailer for this project, you know how they list from the director of,
Right.
the producer of, Ryan Coogler. It's like, oh, so they too good to list Sinners, and then I realized Sinners is another studio. Disney not trying to give props to Ryan Coogler for what he did in somewhere else.
That's why
It was another.
Creed's not mentioned. That's why Creed Station's not mentioned. Now I'm surprised they just did Black Panther Wakanda Forever because I thought you'd get both of them in there. But I guess they was like, hey, this is the last thing he put out on our studio. But good point, Charles.
But yeah, so yeah, I think this is because we know I'm, well, comic book nerd. I know where Riri Williams goes and what she becomes as Ironheart, and what Ironheart has to do in the Marvel universe that we may be seeing coming quite soon. So yeah, this I think this trailer has legs, and it really, I think this, of the trailers that we've talked about, I think this is the best trailer that we've seen, and the one that gets us most excited for the series that's what's coming for us. So yeah, I think it works really well, and makes me excited for I think it's September. I think it's
It's
September. I'm not
September.
sure.
I could have swore I saw June, but maybe I'm wrong, man. So no big deal, man. So that's it for the trailers, man. So out of these three, man, I think Superman had some potential. Really want to see that because I like James Gunn and I respect him. Straw is going to be interesting because, like I said, yeah, it's just going to be interesting, man. I mean, I don't want to go down the Tyler Perry rabbit hole again, man, but it is what it is. And I'm actually really looking forward to Ironheart because again, we don't see a lot of black and brown folk headlining shows a lot on Disney Plus. So this is going to be a good moment, and I want to see Riri's growth and evolution and how they plan to use her. So that's cool. So any last thoughts, man, before we get out of this segment and move on, Charles?
Ironheart's release date is June 24th.
Oh, okay. So I thought I was right when I saw June 24th. All right, so not a problem. All right, so we'll continue to update you on that and other information. But right now, Charles, it's time for our Light Reel Film Festival Spotlight. And this week, I want to introduce a young man who we're always talking about filmmakers, right, on this show, and we've had plenty of them. I don't think we've ever brought a screenwriter on before, Charles. Have we done that?
I don't think so.
I don't
No.
think so, man. So, without any further ado, man, this gentleman's screenplay, The Go-Go District, was an official selection for the Light Reel Film Festival. It is a finalist along with, I think, 10 other screenplays. And, this story of a recently released convict who joins a struggling go-go band in Washington, D.C., using the chaotic sound, soulful music scene as a path to redemption while striving to pay for his younger brother's prestigious music fellowship. Damn, man, whoever wrote that sentence, that's a long run-on sentence, but it works. Travis Houze, what's up, brother?
Thank you, thank you. Great to meet you guys. And it's kind of surreal actually hearing it said out loud. So it's awesome to be here and thank you for having me.
Well, sir, first of all, welcome to the Light Reel Film Festival, man. I tell people, every filmmaker, whether it's in person or whether it is over the phone, that the creatives whose work gets submitted to our festival and then ultimately gets accepted to our festival is pretty much the reason this is the platform and the reason why it's built in the first place because it's about you guys, right? I tell people all the time, you don't really need to know who I am. I'm just gonna keep be the guy in the corner rocking one of these shirts and I'm standing back, man, because it's y'all's chance to shine. I love the fact, man, that of what I've read from your work, and I think it's amazing. And I'll let Charles Kirkland, who is one of our programmers, speak for himself. But welcome to the show, welcome to the festival, and cannot wait for you to enjoy and explore and network and just take in all of the fabric of what the Light Reel Film Festival is all about, man.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it's awesome. I always love being a part of like festivals in these spaces. I actually was a born and raised DC native, so when I found that there was a space in DC, I was like, oh, this is this is the spot that I've been looking for. So, and to be able to tell a story from, the perspective of a DC native about some of the ideas and concepts behind it, I've been excited to do that. So, I will go ahead and get a little bit of background about it. I started writing the screenplay back in 2017, 2018. I wanted to create a story. I've been always looking for the next go-go story to come out of the city because I felt like with independent film coming in and starting to evolve and getting a lot of access to great things, I was like, where's that go-go film? We have it right here. We don't have to spend as much money to do it anymore, but I just never saw it come. So I always say, tell the stories that you want to see happen. So I looked at some of the other films from back in the day. So like I saw Good to Go back in the 80s. So I remember seeing that. I saw Jazz in the Diamond District back in the 2000s. Also saw Residue. Shout out to the crew that did that a couple years back. And I was like, I really need to make something that's very centralized into this genre and playing off some of the musical elements of it because there's a very unique way to do it. So I said, how do I need do that? And I need to get into giving people a firsthand look in the perspective of the band. So I sat in the band and I said, all right, these are the characters. I need to hear them. I want to see how they react to it. And I used a young male by the name of Talik as kind of the protagonist. Like, I don't know anything about this go-go thing, but I'm thrown into the middle of it and I'm trying to process all of it. So I use a lot of the inspiration from myself. Like when I was 10 years old, I was like, I got thrown into go-go. I didn't know anything about it. So I said I need to start using him as a chance to push out stories and concepts within that. So throughout the entire screenplay, you're seeing it from the perspective of two brothers, Malcolm and Talik, where Malcolm is just trying to get his go-go band off the ground and trying to get an establishment for himself after going through some tumultuous times in his family and getting to see a chance of how Go-Go brings people together and actually centralizes things in a way that no other genre can. So you're really getting, I wanted to make it very specific of going into the heat of what's it like to go into these venues? What's it like in these parties? What does it feel like in these spaces? And just feel like you want to be a part of this.
Nice. Charles?
So I know being from the DC area, I know what I mean, a lot of people know about hip hop culture and how it presents itself around the world. But go-go culture has its own identity here in DC. How did you represent, or how hard was it for you to represent on paper the kind of atmosphere, the culture that exists in DC for someone who's not from the area to understand what it's like? How hard
It's
was that?
honestly, yeah, it's honestly harder than I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like, oh, it's going to be easy, but you have the hard thing I learned is there's no direct references of like screenplays that actually like verbally write out what go-go looks like and sounds like. So I was stuck. I thought to myself, oh, it's going to be easy because I know what it sounds like. I've been listening to it for 20 some years. But then I'm like, oh wait, how do you do that? So I remember the first, literally the very first lines in the script was I started off with it's not blues, it's not rock, it's something more chaotic. And I remember just saying like I wanted it to be as vague as possible because when you start hearing that sound, as soon as it comes on, you don't know how to comprehend it immediately. You can't really verbally describe. I can describe blues, I can describe rock, I can describe electronic music, but I can't really describe go-go. You just kind of have to learn and grow with it. So that was one of the biggest things. And I think it was a beautiful challenge for myself because I had to not only learn how to write a screenplay, but also had to learn go-go again.
Wow. Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other question, and I'll turn it back to Tim. Look, I know you've submitted this screenplay to other places, other areas, to for consideration.
Mhm.
How intimidating was it to submit it to a festival like this one that is in Washington, D.C., that understands the culture and have it viewed through those eyes, those lenses?
Oh, it comes with different challenges. So let's say if I'm submitting this to another festival like in, I don't know, New York or Los Angeles, they're kind of like, I don't know what any of this is. So you're kind of just going in the blind that you hope that it gives them a good enough idea, like, okay, do I like this story and do I like this genre of what's being stole within the culture? The challenge of writing the screenplay to DC is, are you representing it right?
Yeah.
That's another pressure in itself because respectfully, I know that Gogo had always had the challenge of how is it represented on a visual medium and how do people describe it to people outside of like the District, Maryland, and Virginia area? So it comes with another challenge in itself of like, do I feel like I'm representing this right? But am I also telling a good enough movie in the process of it? So I have to deal with two different battles of culturally, does it feel accurate? But does it also deal with the idea of I'm doing something fresh and unique within the process of it?
Good
Okay.
question, Charles. But last week we had the documentarian now, Priest the Nomad, on who has a doc at the festival called "I Was the Weirdo,"
Hmm.
about growing up in DC, loving hip hop, but being loving hip hop immersed in a go-go culture.
Hmm.
When you were creating your story, Travis, was it just all like first person perspective, or did you talk to some of these folks and try to get some insight that you sort of worked into the story, use some of them as archetypes? I know you talked earlier about, you sat in on a band and, you based it on somebody, but was there any additional extensive research to really kind of hone in, kind of, as you said earlier, to try to figure out exactly how do you articulate to the person who's not from this area what this phenomenon called go-go is all about?
Yeah, I looked at every documentary you can think of. I read different books. I remember there was The Beat. I believe it was called The Beat, where it's like the Washington, D.C.'s music scene. I remember reading that book extensively. I remember there was a documentary by the name of Straight Cranking that I used to watch too. I remember even going back to like the TCB Keep It Gangster 1 and 2 movies. I remember seeing those. And I would also reach out to people within this Facebook group called the Go-Go Report. And they had people like Kato Hammond and all these kind of names, and I would just kind of like every once in a while do like posts like, hey, what happened during this time or what happened during that time? And I would get like a mixture of people who were in those spaces, but also were just like supporters and fans to be able to say, like, okay, this is what happened in this space, this is what happened in that space. And it was almost like getting like that close by hand experience within that. And I remember growing up with other bands in the area that I used to go to school with. So I was able to tap them and say, hey, how did you get into this? And how did you get into that? So I wanted to kind of look at all the different facets of how you get to this space. And then honestly, just going down to a space, it's like I remember going down to the Metro PCS around Georgia Avenue and saying like, okay, let's go. Let me see how your CD set section is set up. Let me see who you have on the top row or the bottom row. I remember going to Where around Waldorf, Maryland. I went to all those spaces because I felt like, how can I tell a story like this and not see what it's like to walk in those spaces?
Charles, we got about 5 minutes left, man. And I know you are, as a native, man, you have way more insight about this than I do, man. I can see his face. He's just like beaming up and loving this.
Hmm.
Well, I guess my last question, and I'll leave it at that, is, and this is more about the process of being a screenwriter than anything else. I
Hmm.
mean, I know you've submitted it to other places. Does when you get feedback, do you read? I mean, how many times do you edit the manuscript and submit it out again? I know the name has changed on this before. So
Hmm.
how many times? I mean, when do you know that you have what you're finally pleased with?
I mean, you never, as an artist, you never really know. You never know. You know when you feel better about it than you did yesterday. So, it did go by a different title originally back in the early 2020s, and I realized that it was going to be, I didn't want it to be a conflict with some other bands and what they were doing at the time. So when I was notified about that, I wanted to respect that space. But I think that the biggest thing is showing like what is the best representation of, if no one has ever heard of this, what will actually get their appeal, what will get their attention. And I settled on the Go-Go District. One, it's about go-go. Two, takes place in the District of Columbia. That you get all that information right then and there. But I think that one thing I wanted it to be is as accessible as possible. I wrote it to be like the airy summer flick for that you would watch in the movie around this time of the year. So I wanted it to be with that in that mindset. And my goal and my hope is to come across someone who loves this idea, wants to see it come to life, and supports the genre and wants to see the best version of it possible. I've always had big screen dreams, and I believe that this is something that can bring the community together and make something special.
Wow. Well, I mean, look, Charles. I mean, there's nothing that's a drop the mic moment right there for Travis. Travis, bro, look, hey man, I'm looking forward to you enjoying the festival. Are you planning on coming through all 4 days, or I mean, or what are you gonna do? Because I know we're gonna be announcing the winners of our Black Butterfly Festival Awards. I think that's Saturday night at 7:15, Saturday, June the 7th at 7:15,
Okay.
where we'll announce the six festival winners. I think it's narrative feature, doc feature, short narrative, I mean, short narrative, doc short, screenplay, and then, of course, our audience award. So,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely my plan to be there because I'm not too far from there, and I definitely want to be there to support all the other talented individuals of the DC area.
well, Charles Kirkland can't wait to meet you.
Well, we can gladly talk more about the story and more
Charles,
details, so I will be there.
Charles has plenty of questions, Travis. Trust me.
Oh, I believe it. I will be ready.
All right, all
So,
right.
brother, I want to
Looking
thank you,
forward to it.
man. Good luck. We look forward to seeing you, man. Come up, introduce yourself, man. And as I said, man, enjoy the Light Reel Film Festival, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for having me, and I look forward to seeing everybody there.
All right,
All
brother.
right,
Look forward to seeing you as well, man. You take care, Travis.
All right, peace and love. Appreciate it.
Peace, man. Peace.
all right.
All right, and of course, that is Travis Houze, man. This brother, man. Wow. Great story, man. Charles is still sitting there looking like, woo,
Yeah, we
woo.
got something special. Yeah, we got something special with that one right there. That
Yeah,
right
I
there.
can tell, man. I can tell from your reaction. Whenever your eyes light up, you like, that's why I was like, Charles, you go ahead, man. And one more question, Travis. That was pretty good, man. I like that. All right. So, Charles, man, it's time for us to move on, man, and get ready to talk about these movies, man. And I guess there's before I start with the movies, I just left out one thing that I wanted to get your comment on. Uh 20 some odd years ago, I want to say it was 2004. Mel Gibson just kind of caught lightning in a bottle, man, with his $30 million film called Passion of the Christ. Remember that?
Yes,
Uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah, caught the last week of Jesus starting. I'm trying to remember. Did it even start the last week when he came in on the donkey and with Hosanna? Did it even start there, or did it just pretty much start? So, because I don't even remember. I haven't
It's been so long, and it's not one of those films that you're going to watch multiple times. I
knew.
mean, it's that powerful of a
No.
film. So yeah, I don't remember. I want to say it did, but I'm thinking now because I just saw The Chosen a couple weeks ago, and that started with him coming in on the donkey. So it may be, I don't know.
Well, I bring that up, man, because it was just announced today that Lionsgate is now greenlit the Resurrection of the Christ. The next installment, Mel Gibson is back, which AKA means that maybe that money that he made the first time ran out and we got to get back. I'm just being funny. I don't know if that's true, but the resurrection of the Christ you revisits the passion legacy and its controversies. It explores the market of large-scale Christian cinema. It's going to be interesting. Now, they've agreed to pay for this, and I'm assuming, Charles, that this one is going to cost a little bit more because when you make a film for 30 million and it makes 600 million worldwide, we talked about this with Coogler. You're able to go back to the table and ask for some more stuff because it's clear he has a track record of having done this before. I have no idea, Charles, what the resurrection of Christ is going to be about. Um,
No
no,
idea.
no, 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 no. I don't have an idea about what his version of the. No, no, I know, sir. His version of the resurrection of Christ. I know or understand that part. Charles is about to attack me like, hey, stop eating the hair off my face, man. That's what happened before, man. Stop it. So Charles, thoughts on the resurrection of Christ, man? The
Okay,
Mel
so
Gibson version.
Mel Gibson is really. Some people will say that he's the one that got this renaissance, I'll say, in Christian movies started because right now, this is a great area. The faith-based films are really surging in importance, in story, in direction. They become higher quality than they've been before. And so there's a lot of really good stuff out there, and I mentioned The Chosen, which just came out a couple weeks, about a month ago, I should say. And the Chosen announced that they were going to be doing the resurrection story as well. So I think there's an opportunity here that people are recognizing that these faith-based films, even the ones that are directed by secular artists like Mel Gibson, instead of the traditional Christian outlets, they're making money and they're getting better on what they do. So I can see where it wouldn't have been hard for Mel Gibson to talk them into doing the sequel to this story, and to be honest, the Passion of the Christ is a story that was incomplete, and the completion comes with the resurrection story. So, yeah, it's a much more important story, and I guess it needs to be seen as well. I don't think it's going to be as nearly as graphic, of course, as the Passion was because there's just not that it doesn't have that feel to it. But I think it's an important story that needs to be told well, and so we'll see what happens.
All
I'm looking forward to it.
all right, man. So look at and speaking of looking forward to stuff, man. Charles, I don't know if you got an opportunity to watch Forever yet. Have you seen this on
No,
Netflix? So
no.
of course, Forever is a story of two young people who are reunited as teens. So they were friends as kids, uh, kind of spent 10 years, maybe more away from each other, and they are reunited at a party, and there is an instant attraction, and they fall madly in love, Charles. But when you fall madly in love in high school, there's a lot of immaturity and there's a lot of stuff that one must navigate. And this story, which is a limited series, is 8 episodes, which is interesting because just as I was finishing season one, they announced that it had been renewed for season two, which made perfect sense because as I was looking at the end, I was like, yeah, that would have been a crappy ending. So the story will continue. This one stars Lovey Simone, who Charles, you used to watch Greenleaf, so she was like the little bratty daughter that was on the
Right.
show of Lamont Rucker, and I forget what his wife's name was, but she played the bratty daughter in this. It also stars Michael Cooper Jr., who I wonder if he's any kin to Confunction's Michael Cooper. Remember that? The lead singer for Conjunction?
Yeah, yeah, but I don't think
I
so.
don't
But
think so, but I wonder because that name is kind of interesting. Or is he any kin to the LA Laker basketball player Michael Cooper? So there's a couple of Michael Coopers that are out there, and he's a junior, so I wonder about that. It also stars Karen Pittman, Wood Harris, who is absolutely amazing in this. He might be Wood Harris for my money, might be the best written character in this entire series, playing the father of Justin, who's Michael Cooper Jr. He's the father that every black son needs, and there are lots of great life lessons that are learned in this film. The sister, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the name correctly. It's spelled Xosha. I want to say Zosha Rockmore. Rockmore is she plays the mother of Lovey Simone's character in this, as well as Niles Fitch, who you guys have seen in some projects. So, um, created by Mara Brock Akil, based on Judy Blume's book, and she took it and changed the ethnicity, and yeah, man, so she changed the
okay.
ethnicity of the characters from from white to black. um I will have to talk to you off air about a conversation I had with a filmmaker yesterday who gave me an interesting critique about what she thought was the character was she thought that the young girl was over sexualized in it. And I wasn't aware because I've never read the books. And I was told that these were books that young girls in middle school, middle to junior high used to read. So I've never read any of these books. So I had no basis to understand what the original characters versus the original character versus what Myra Brocker Keel did. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good despite that critique. And as I said, I enjoyed watching Wood Harris father his son and be strong to his son but not disrespectful to the mother. So they had a very loving relationship, but he took his role as head of house very very seriously about what his son needed to hear in order to transition from a boy to a man. So I enjoyed it, and I look forward to getting your feedback because as a father who has both sons and daughters, you probably can speak to this in a way that I cannot. So, Forever, man, just launched this week. Pretty good. I highly suggest you check it out, man.
Well, it's got a good pedigree to it. I don't know about the Judy Bloom reference. I mean, I know of Judy Bloom, but it's kind of surprising. But Mara Brocker Keel, who did Love Is and The Game, I believe, directed those things. I mean, she's been around a while, and man, Love Is one of my favorite uh series from I think that was what 2018 that
Yeah,
came out,
lasted
starring
it
Woody.
lasted one season.
One season, but it was fantastic show. It was a fantastic show.
I agree with you. I
So yeah,
agree
I
with you.
can't. I'm gonna have to check this one out
Well, you do, man. I mean, just like, we always talk about recommendations. There's been times that Charles would give me a recommendation. I'm like, all right,
off
man,
air.
you said check it out. I'll check it out. And then I come back and go, oh, that was hot. Or I come back and go, no, Charles,
Nah,
that's not the
nah.
winner right there. So,
That
as
has
you
never
also noticed,
happened.
Charles, we don't
That
have
has never happened.
what
Never
never happened.
happened. For you to come back and say, "Nah, Charles, that wasn't working."
Oh no,
Mm-mm.
no, I've done that before. I've told you when stuff wasn't working, man. So, but that was interesting. But no, I was gonna say there's nothing for us really to review. The movie I saw this week is not out until next week, and you haven't seen it either. So we need to talk about this movie next week, as we're in the middle of summer, which is really odd, Charles, because in previous years, when you start off the especially in early May, that opening weekend, you normally get slammed with movie, 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 movie. And
Nah,
I mean, you know,
nah. I think it's usually about Memorial Day weekend we start getting into the really good stuff in May. And this week we got two films coming out that are opening cold. So it's kind of like, it's always a bad sign when you get a film that's opening
is
cold.
it?
But one of them is Final Destination, which really surprises me because it's got to be pretty bad if you're not gonna open it. I mean, if you're gonna open it cold. And Final Destination, people have a big love for that series, so I'm kind of surprised that they're not letting people see it. But you know what that means. You know what that usually means.
That Sinners will be number two for another week. You do realize, Charles, after looking at the numbers last week, that all Sinners needed to do between Monday of this week till Sunday is just generate $20 million and it'll be over 300 million.
Yeah,
In week five, and then we can pull up the article and the show where they said, and I quote,
oh,
hey
it's never
man,
gonna make its money.
48 million, that's a good number, man, but it has a long way to go to get to 300 million. And Charles, now we can come back next week and go, did it?
Yeah,
Did
I
it
guess I
really?
guess I guess 5 weeks is a long time.
Watch this. 5 weeks or never. You make the call. There's some movies that they would have written that about, that those movies died at 90 million. They would have gone away. Sinners is the little engine that keeps on chugging. And I sent you a story today. Did you read that about
I did read that story.
how
I did.
interesting is that?
Quite interesting indeed, and quite interesting indeed. I always said when we came out of it that there's room for sequels. And so who knows? We may be getting Sinners 2.
Well, who owns the sequel? Because this is important stuff. Because even so we're referencing an article that was in Forbes magazine about Ryan Coogler, and he's taking a gamble by getting this movie back in 2050 because of the technology of how we watch movies changes. Ryan Coogler stands to make a lot of money with that, right?
Yeah.
Now, they were talking about the rights, if to Charles's point, if they make a sequel, we have to negotiate who owns the sequel. Does Ryan Coogler get to own the sequel? Does the studio own the sequel? And even if the guy said, even if the studio owns the sequel, if they want to do something with the first film, they got to come back and holler at me because you can't do anything with sequels without the first. So it is a really interesting deal. And it also talked about Quentin Tarantino and Jim, how do you pronounce his name? Jarmusch,
Jarmusch. Jarmusch,
who
yeah.
also are people who have had deals like this. And I was telling you earlier, before I even had that information, I'm sure he's not the first person. Now, he might be the first black person to ever have one of these deals, but they're not giving them out to everybody. This is not like cotton candy, like you get to own your movie and you get your masters. No, you got to come either with some pedigree. You got to be bringing something to the table in order for the studios to pony up a deal like this. So we will continue to monitor Ryan Coogler in the Sinners universe because it sounds like at some point, Charles, which I thought was the best part of the article, he could have got a lot more money up front if he didn't push for ownership. Mm. All right. So that's what I
All
got
right.
there, Charles. But we can ready to get out of here, man. And we'll be back next week, man. We'll be back in studio, spotlighting someone else about the lakefront, the Light Real Film Festival.
Woo!
I know, man. Freudian slip, man. If you want information on the festival, go to lightreelfilm.com. Tickets, passes are available, party passes, panels, all the stuff you need. Charles Kirkland and I will be there. Now, you can't get one of these shirts unless you go to the site and order one because we're not selling merch in person this year. So, Charles has got his shirt. He's wearing something else, but it's okay. But on behalf of my good friend Charles Kirkland Jr., we always tell you to watch, please see something good at the movies this week. I would suggest Forever on the streaming platform. Uh, I'm Tim Gordon. That man right there is Charles Kirkland Jr. And until next week, man, we are out. You guys enjoy yourself and take care, and we will see you soon. Peace.